and welcome to Sound Off with System 1. I'm your host, Krista Kornchuk, and I'm here today with our panel of experts to discuss your biggest interview and resume questions. That means if you're tuning in live, you can send us your most pressing job search related questions, and we'll answer as many as possible. Before we get started, here are a few words about System 1. System 1 is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life science, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 10,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. As you're tuning in today, please join us in the comments. Our marketing team will be monitoring them. Let us know where you're joining from and what industry you work in. And as I said before, this is a live Q&A, so send us your most pressing job search related questions and we'll get to answering as many as we can. Next, I'm going to have our panel of experts introduce themselves. They're also going to be sharing a hot job, which you can view by scanning the QR code or by visiting jobs.system1.com. Sean, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy holidays. Sean Thibodeau, Senior Recruiter with Mountain Limited. Mountain Limited is a System 1 division. We are a pioneering telecommunication engineering firm which bridges communication gaps and strengthens our nation's critical infrastructure. Today, my hot job is so exciting. It's in 5 locations. We'll start with Billings, Montana, looking for an outside telecom inspection. Somebody that's got varied and underground telecom inspector experience. This is a 1 to 2 year W-2 contract position, pay starting at $40 an hour. If you're interested, make sure to reach out.
Hi, everyone. I'm Madison Marcheski, a senior recruiter with Jolet Scientific based out of our Bluebell, PA office. Jolet specializes in life sciences staffing, so partnering with pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device, different healthcare organizations, and really supporting everything from laboratory to manufacturing teams, quality validation, engineering. And today my hot job is a manager of supplier quality. It is based out of the Denver, Colorado area. It's super exciting. It's a direct hire leadership position that supports a lot of high volume medical device operations. And you're really owning a lot of supplier quality for different extrusion components and at a global level. So really, it's ideal for someone who has a few years under their belt with supplier quality and who wants a broader ownership and influence there. It could be a remote opportunity, preferably someone in the Denver area, but if you're interested, I'd love to connect.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eliza Zamel, and I'm a lead recruiter at Jolet, a division of System 1. I'm based out of the Edison, New Jersey office, and like Madison, I focus in the scientific space here at Jolet, which has been focusing on various specialty areas for over 30 years, although the company as a whole has been in business for over 60 years. So to add to Madison, Jolet focuses on various specialty areas, including scientific, healthcare, clinical engineering. We focus on various industries, including the life sciences, consumer products and personal care, clinical research and healthcare, and industrial and specialty chemicals. So today, one of the hot jobs we're working on is a QA microbiology manager position. It's located in the Fairfield, New Jersey area in northern New Jersey. We're seeking experienced candidates with a minimum of 5 years of experience, strong microbiology skills, and the ability to manage quality efforts on the production floor. So including performing QA checks, overseeing routine line audits, overseeing non-conformances and deviations, just to name a few. So the individual must be able to hit the ground running in order to support ongoing efforts in this fast-growing and expanding microbiology laboratory. And we're looking for someone with experience working in the food science, dairy, or related manufacturing industry, along with knowledge and application of GMP regulations, HACCP, and FDA and food safety standards is a must-have for this role. So if you or someone you know is interested in this position, please connect with me directly on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And you can connect with our recruiters just by going into the chat and checking out the link. And without further ado, we're going to get started. If you have pressing interview and resume questions, please send them to us in the chat right away. We'll get to as many as possible. While we're waiting for your questions to come in, I'm going to have our recruiters share a job search tip that their candidates have been benefiting from. So Sean, we'll start with you.
Yeah, definitely. One of my biggest advice that I give to everybody, tip of the day, is make sure you tailor your resume specifically to the job. We have a lot of jobs out there, and a lot of candidates are kind of using one resume to fit all. You're really shooting yourself in the foot. Make sure you connect, look at the job description, tailor your resume to make sure that the qualifications, specifications, any of the achievements that you have done in the past or currently doing, you want to make sure you're highlighting that on your resume. That way it gives you a leg up. Also, make sure you connect with a System 1 recruiter. They set you up for success.
And kind of piggybacking off of that directly into using that resume to kind of do a storytelling. So again, tailoring your resume to the specific job. Kind of think focus over fullness. So some of the strongest resumes that I've seen have been written for run one role at a time, as Sean said. So use the language from the job description that you're applying for and prioritize the specific experience that matters for that role. You can cut anything that doesn't support the story that you're telling for that company or that client. Everything on your resume should show that quick story, what problem you were solving, what you did, why it mattered, just showing that impact. And if you can look at your resume and say why you're fit for this role right now in the first 10 seconds, you told your story correctly. So.
Yeah, so my job tip for today is know who you're applying to and research the company thoroughly. Really understanding the company's needs and potential interview questions beforehand is really key to a successful interview. It also showcases your strong interests, that you want to work for the company and the time and effort you took to really go that extra mile to learn more about their organization. Just to piggyback off of Madison and Sean, this really does go hand in hand with tailoring your resume to the job you're applying for and really focusing on a target audience.
Absolutely. Those are great tips. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'm going to hit you guys with a very common question we have. I'm curious what each of you think about cover letters. Do you think they're important to include? Are they relevant?
Yeah, definitely. I'll start. Cover letters, I think it really all depends on the industry you're in. I mean, in the telecom industry, it does work from time to time. But what I find is more of making sure in the top of your resume that you have a great summary, selling what your history is, your story that was already mentioned. And also, on top of having a cover letter, I would recommend tying in your LinkedIn profile. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated to your resume or vice versa. So that way, if a company, a hiring manager, or a company is actually reviewing your profile and you don't have a cover letter, they're actually, the A and A is equaling. Everybody sees what you've been doing both on the resume and also on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, to jump in there, I agree. I think sometimes, but not always. It's most hiring managers don't require those cover letters, and if you have a strong and targeted resume, it definitely isn't necessary. But that said, a cover letter can help when you're either making a pivot or explaining a gap in your resume, or applying for a role that you're genuinely excited about and you want to get that point across. Definitely speak with a recruiter or your specific recruiter if they think that might be a good way to position yourself. But kind of the key is that if you're going to submit one, keep it short, keep it specific, and make sure that you get your point across.
Yeah, I agree with both you and Sean. From my experience on the recruiting side, from time to time, I do get resumes with cover letters, and sometimes they do have a tendency to become, too wordy or overly long, and it becomes diluted. So I agree, having a strong summary and just adding that extra detail on your resume really helps a lot. Although sometimes it's also on a case-by-case basis. So if something is a little off with the resume, you need a little bit more clarification on the recruiting side. Sometimes those cover letters do help for that purpose. But all in all, I think a great summary and a detailed resume does the job.
That's great. And we have a question coming in. How should we utilize AI tools such as Microsoft Pilot, Claude, etc., when it comes to resume building? Great question.
I'll jump in. I'll be honest, I'm old school. I'm starting to use AI and all the special tools that goes along with it. AI is great, but you have to be cautious too, because whatever you're using AI for, if it's your resume or kind of your cover letter or summary, you want to still make sure it's personal. Sometimes AI takes the personalness out of it. So when you're using AI, please just make sure that you're kind of still doing an overlook and making sure it's not too computerized versus being personal. I've gotten a handful lately, and you could definitely tell it was specifically writing towards AI, and there was no kind of, so to speak, human touch to it. So it kind of made it tricky because the wordage, the comparisons between the job descriptions, plus what they were interviewing for and applying for, just didn't truly align. So just be cautious. AI's got a lot of valuable tools out there that does help you, give you great ideas. So I'm not telling you not to use it. I encourage you to use it, but just make sure that you're putting your own personal touch to it.
Yeah, and to not to repeat Sean at all, but I think that's the human touch and the human judgment is the biggest piece of that. AI is a super helpful resume tool if you use it strategically and for editing purposes as well. It's great to help tighten different languages or tailor to that job description, as we were mentioning prior to, and it does help save a lot of time when you're specifically tailoring to multiple job descriptions or positions that you're applying to. But it shouldn't be replace your voice, or it shouldn't be an experience, AI's experience rather than your experience. So definitely layer in a lot of human judgment and feedback, and use it wisely.
Yeah, and to add to that, I'd say really take the time out to review the final end product, because a lot of the times AI will include detail in there that's not necessarily specific to you. And oftentimes I do receive, resumes or cover letters with that seems to be AI generated, and just some of the details are not relevant to what's on the resume. So really take that time to review the final end product before sending it over.
Absolutely. And what is the perfect length for a resume? I've had recruiters make edits to where I don't recognize myself. She's back. Again, what's the perfect length for a resume?
I could start again. I think partnering up with a System 1 recruiter will help you tailor the correct answer for this. There's no real right or wrong answer. It really depends on what industry you're in. Some industries you might have to get very technical about the different softwares, programs, systems that you've been using. Others you might not be. My rule of thumb, depending on your industry, I think 2 to 3 pages is plenty for a resume. Ideally, you kind of want to go back 10 to 12 years of relevant experience, but you want to highlight, really the key is highlighting your qualifications, responsibility, things of that nature, so that way it's selling you. But I think probably the best thing is every industry has their own idea of how long a resume should be, and each one of the System 1 recruiters definitely can put you in the right kind of track to figure out what's best for you and the positions that you're interested in.
Yeah, and to go back to my initial tip that I provided, I feel like the right length for a resume is long enough to tell that story and short enough to hold the person's attention that you're trying to capture. So for most candidates, you're looking at 1 to 2 pages. A lot of, if you're an early career professional, I try to help my candidates tailor it to more 1 page. More experienced candidates are going to have a lot more of that technical and leadership story that you need to share. And so those do get a little bit longer because you've made a little bit more of an impact there. But what matters more than length is that focus there, and being able to showcase yourself in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's also, again, on a case-by-case basis. So, for example, an individual with entry-level experience who's right out of school, you don't want to receive a resume that's 2 or 3 pages long showing every job they held in high school, or just every detail of the courses that they've taken. 1 page will probably suffice for something like that. But again, it's also on a case-by-case basis, like Madison said, depending on your experience level as well.
Absolutely. And recruiters will help you decipher what you should and should not include. And before we get to the next question, we're getting numerous questions about how do I connect with a recruiter? The best way to do so is, first of all, connect with the recruiters we have on this live stream. Their links are in the chat, and apply to jobs.system1.com. Even if you don't see a role that you would like right away, you can still upload your resume, and that's the best way to get a recruiter to reach out to you. Our next question is from Joseph. He wants to know, will it harm selection possibilities when applying again for a role that is reposted? Great question.
I'll jump in. If I understand this question correctly, you're applying to a role that you may have already applied to after it was reposted. And I don't think it harms or helps in any specific way. If anything, you're putting your profile out for more visibility. I know there's a lot of conversation about if a recruiter sees your resume versus an ATS system. So that's also something to keep in mind as you're going through. But the ATS systems help screen, and the recruiter is the person who ultimately is reviewing your resume at the end of the day. So I don't think it necessarily harms the selection possibilities, but it's more so tailor or applying for the positions that that you believe you're the best fit for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think also more than anything, it shows that you are still available, you are still out there, and you are still interested in the position. So it really showcases your motivation and interest in working for the organization as well.
Yeah, definitely. I would add to both great answers. Joseph, great question. I think it doesn't hurt you at all. It's not harmful in any way. I would encourage you to reapply because it really, if you build that partnership up with a recruiter, reaching out weekly, monthly, seeing what's going on with different opportunities and jobs in the market, that's going to definitely keep you, engaged. One of the biggest things is like in my industry, in the telecommunication industry, I have multiple clients, multiple companies and departments that are hiring kind of in the same regions. So you might see a job that's reposted, but it might be a different type of jobs for a different hiring manager, but it's in the same location. So you definitely want to be engaged. You want to apply. You have the car, you're driving. So grab onto the steering wheel, make sure you're staying aggressive. The last 18 months has definitely been hard across the nation with hiring and jobs being on hold in different kind of industries. So encourage you to definitely stay connected, and I would apply. You want to get seen. The more you're seen, the better off you are, but build those relationships.
Absolutely. And I'm getting multiple questions about standing out after a candidate puts in an application. So in your opinion, what makes a candidate stand out?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll start on this one. What makes a candidate stand out? I love it when I'm talking to a candidate. We're doing an interview prep or we're talking about a position. And then, an hour after I'm done talking with the individual, he actually comes back or she comes back, sends me an invite on LinkedIn, wants to connect, thanking them for my time to go more detail. I love kind of prepping, mentoring, and tailoring, kind of the job search for candidates. So it's just great. I think building that connection, going back, after an interview, simple things like sending a thank you note. A lot of our interviews are through Teams virtually, so you know who you're actually interviewing with. So that allows you to actually send a thank you note. I've had people that would send personal letters, a little card saying thank you. That goes a long ways. It's about setting yourself up for success, kind of being positive, and you want to lean forward and not wait for it to come to you.
Yeah, and I echo everything that Sean said. Being engaged is extremely important. Following up thoughtfully, being responsive, clearly connecting what your experience is to the role, and then cultivating the relationship with your recruiter, being able to connect those dots, so that your recruiter can tell your story for you, can advocate for you, those candidates who are kind of making it easier for us recruiters, and some of the hiring managers that we work for, being able to advocate for them are definitely the ones that are standing out.
Yeah, and you know what? Timing is everything. I think just to piggyback off of response time, out of responding. Responding. I think the timing of your response is also critical because again, it shows your interest. You are engaged, and you're very interested. So again, timing I think also plays a huge factor. You don't want to wait a week before following up or sending that thank you note. I always recommend my candidates to submit like thank you notes if they're really interested within the first 24 to 48 business hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another common question we get. So thank you very much. Our next question, I've been out of IT for a year and I have 11 years of experience. I only found part-time work in various fields. Do I still include those on my resume to show that I stayed employed?
I can jump in here. I think similar to when we were speaking about how long a resume should be, and also if a cover letter is necessary, I think it's very case by case basis. In this particular instance, having the part-time work, it may be different than what you're looking for ultimately for a full-time position. But if a lot of what hiring managers are looking for is that you having consistent employment and being able to show that in your resume. We can workshop with your recruiter. That's something that we do on a daily basis, and something that I enjoy most in my job is being able to showcase that as well. So it, again, is a case-by-case basis, depends on specifically for this example, 11 years of experience, how many jobs you may have had during that time, but you want to tell that story and be able to connect the dots there.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. That's a tough one. I'd always encourage to put everything down on your resume. It's not so much of a gap, but you want to make sure that people know that you're still engaged, you're still looking for work, or you're still currently working. There's been a lot of people that would have a gap recently on their resumes, and that's not a factor for you not to get hired. So I definitely would kind of summarize that, from January to July, you work part-time at A, B, and C. That way, it's still showing you're engaged, still motivated, still working. You're still trying to find that right fit for the next career, or that next great opportunity that's going to take care of you and your family.
Yeah, I think it's better to have something on there to show that you've done something during that time period versus not having done anything, and like Madison said, telling your story so we get the big picture and really understand that the candidate is engaged and is looking for work and wants to work.
Absolutely. And can your educational background make you overqualified even if you have the skills to do the job? That's a good question. And a tough one.
That's a tough question. It's kind of tricky. In my industry, in the telecommunication, there's no kind of education requirement for a lot of our positions. I mean, if you're an outside plant engineer, sometimes you'll have a mechanical engineering degree, things of that nature. But education is great to have. It means you took the opportunity to seek further wisdom, further skills to help you personally and professionally in your career. It's not going to make you overqualified in my eyes. I think having the job skills, day-to-day skills, and an education is a plus. Every industry is different. In my industry, like I said, there's a lot of positions that don't require any education. As long as you have a high school diploma or a GED, you're fine. So we encourage people to have hands-on experience and kind of on-the-job skills that they've learned over the years. But in education, it's going to set you apart from others, and it's going to help you. But it's definitely not going to label you, depending on what industry you're going into. It's not going to overqualify you in my eyes.
Yeah, this is a tough one, and I think it's a great scenario where working with a recruiter with System 1 Recruiter, particularly at Jolet in life sciences. We see this sometimes where if you have a PhD or a master's, you fall into a specific bracket, but maybe you don't have the particular skill sets that you have it in academic or industry. And so understanding that that what the company and the client is looking for, you may not see that on the job posting, but you will be able to have that insight from a recruiter, and know if it's the right position to apply for, and all of that. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, and also I think, again, case by case basis, you have to factor in also, depending on what level the job is. Yeah, you may be qualified for it, you have the skills to do the job, but from the manager's perspective, they may feel that you may get bored from the job. It might not be to your caliber, or another thing that can play a major factor is the compensation range. So they want to make sure that you're positioned to be in a role that's within your comp range. So that those could be other factors to consider.
Fantastic. And we covered this next question a little bit, but I think it's still important to go over. When candidates tailor their resumes for every role, does it feel like job description copying, or is this the right approach?
I think it's very important. It's not, I don't feel it's copying. Ideally is you're making sure that, 1 and 1 equals 2. You want to make sure that your resume is definitely tailored to, the job or the position. Now, let's all be honest, you don't want to be falsifying information saying you've done A, B, and C, or you're qualified in A, B, and C if you've never done it. But you definitely want to highlight, the positions, the roles, the experience on your resume that are tailored towards, the job descriptions or the requirements and qualifications. If you've done that, you definitely want to tailor your resume towards it. If you haven't, you want to just be honest. And I think that's where it comes important. And I say this every time I speak live, is partner up with a LinkedIn, with System 1 and a recruiter. We deal a lot with this on a daily basis. And if you're thinking of how, you've done A and B, but it doesn't correlate or totally transfer, we can still summarize them and set you up for success. So don't feel like you're copying. Partner up with a recruiter and make sure that you're being honest and telling the truth. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and calling out those transferable skills for sure is going to make a big difference. So if you don't have the exact title, don't change your title on your resume to be exactly what it is in the job description. It's showing that you can do the work. So similar processes, or if you worked in for life sciences, for example, a regulated industry, just highlighting those specific skill sets to show that you have the knowledge, but you're not putting exactly what you think that they want to see. It's what you've done that would make the most sense for the role.
Yeah, and being honest on the resume is key. And I always tell my candidates, take a look at the job description, because as recruiters, we use those as check boxes as well. The responsibilities and the requirements. So, in looking at that, if they have the responsibilities listed in the job description, it's relevant to them, definitely include it on your resume. So that way we could check the boxes. We can clearly see you're qualified, you meet the requirements for the job, but then of course, tailor it so that it's in your own words. But yeah, I think that's a question I get a lot as well from a lot of candidates.
Fantastic. And I'm going to do one more question to close out. What are common mistakes you're seeing applicants make?
Sorry, Sean. I think I'll go from like a resume perspective. Being too vague. If you're putting in bullet points that say you were around rather than like what you actually did, or like hiring managers want that ownership. So tell what you worked on, what you decided, and what changed because of you in a concise way rather than just, again, that in the previous question, you're not copying the description of the position down. You're tailoring it to what you've done and what you actually did. So I think that's a mistake that I see often, and we work with candidates to rectify that and make sure that their resume is reflective of their experience.
Yeah, and to the other extreme, another mistake I see is, when candidates have a wealth of experience and they send, their resume becomes very diluted, and you're sending a resume that's 5 and 8 pages long. I think key there is to be able to manage that and find a way to kind of consolidate your experience in a way that's concise and that can still showcase your background really well to a manager.
Both great answers. One thing that I've seen lately, believe it or not, is people applying for jobs through our ATS platform and not putting a good phone number. And it just goes back to attention to detail, kind of making sure when you're submitting a resume, either directly to a recruiter or to an ATS platform, make sure all the information is correct. You want to have the best phone number, not a phone that's been disconnected. You want to make sure you have a great email. If you're applying for a resume or applying through an ATS platform, ideally, if you know who's in that industry, especially the System 1, I would definitely encourage you to get with a recruiter so that way they can work with you. But I've literally had to send emails before, and it took about 3 weeks before I could actually get a phone number to set up a time to talk with somebody. So proofread is kind of like doing an interview. You just don't go into an interview without preparing. So when you're submitting your resume, make sure you prepare your resume to be, it's your first impression. Your first look is going to make the difference. So make sure your I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Well said. And there are so many tools to help you do that. We appreciate the advice. I want to thank you to everyone that commented. And don't forget to follow System 1 on LinkedIn if you're not already. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can view past topics. You can learn all about resume and interview prep in our previous Send Off with System 1 episodes. Our next live stream will be Friday, January 16th at 2 p.m. And we're going to discuss resume gaps, transitions, and tricky scenarios. See you soon.